Shall I start? Let's start.
Okay.
Are we welcoming the audience?
Yes.
Welcome to Sarah and Wendy.
The best people.
And me.
Just wanted to do something on callus, because it's probably the thing that we see most, and until I actually looked this up I didn't understand it, and for the benefit of the tape, apologies to Belinda if I get anything wrong. It's really hard doing these when someone that knows more than you about something is watching. This is making it weird, isn't it? Yeah. This is weird. Okay, so quick bit of revision on the skin. So cast your eye over here. Dermis down here. Dermis is boring. All right, nothing fun goes on in the dermis. The dermis, you've got your nerve cells, you've got your blood vessels. Forget about dermis. Dermis is boring. Then you've got your basal layer. That is a row of cells that produce all of everything that comes before. So think of this as the nozzle that squeezes all of this out. So what gets made here is keratinocytes. That's one of two words you need to be able to remember. Keratinocytes are all these little dudes. So after they get made, they come up to here and they become, they're still keratinocytes, but they're bigger. And then they get up there and they start to squish and they start to empty, and they get up to there, and ignoring the stratum lucidium, they become cornified cells. They become the stratum corneum. So all of these are the same cells. This is not different types of cells. These create there, are young there, are middle-aged there, are old there, and then die and become the cornified layer. Okay? Oh yes, when they get to this stage and they go squish and they deflate, think of them like balloons, all of the stuff that's inside goes away, most especially the nucleus. They denucleate. So at this stage, when they've gone pop, they're empty. Okay? And then at the very, very top, when they become these flaky bits, they come off and become house dust and just go away. The top layer, the dead bit of skin, the bit that you touch when you touch the skin, you've got these cornocytes, so dead flat cells, but you've also got lipids, oil in the middle. That's what makes your skin waterproof. And you've got desmosomes, which are little proteins that hold it all together. So it's not actually technically a dead layer because it's got extracellular stuff and it's got other things going on, proteins that hold it all together. And these cornocytes are 1 micrometer thick by about 30 micrometers in diameter, so they are very, very flat. They're very, very wide for the thickness they are. So think of it as balloons that come up and then squish. So here is the demo. I have a demo. All right.
Camera 2.
I've got the right demo. So there is your skin cells. There's a skin cell. 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 So this germinates from a plate underneath. If you imagine I had a china plate, I don't have a china plate, but imagine that there's a china plate to represent the basal layer, and then that's the spinosum and the granulosum layer, and then you've got the cornified layer. So what happens is all of those plates squash, and then that, we'll put that on top of some more stimulated skin. So you've got your skin cells in the lower layers, which are still full, but the skin cells on top are all flat. And then of course when you get to the top and they're all flat, they all just do that and come off and become house. All right. That process is called desquamation. These are squames, desquamation. The skin cells just fall off, and they can do that because these little bridges, these little desmosomes, degrade over time. So when it gets to the stage where it's not needed anymore, the desmosomes break down and the skin cells can just sort of disappear off. And then that layer by that time is being pushed up by more skin. So those skin layers squish, and then it just goes off the top. So we're all right with normal skin.
Yes.
So two things you've got to remember: keratinocytes, which are when they're still full, and then cornocytes, which is the same cell when it's gone and squished. I'll give you the notes. I've put some very simple.
Oh, we're going to have a
notes
video,
here.
aren't we?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you can watch the video. We've never been able to do that before. We should do that.
We should.
So that's all fine up until the point where you have trauma. When you get trauma, you have chemical changes happening in the skin. First of all, you get inflammatory cytokines. These are the markers that the chemicals that the body uses to activate stuff. And what they do is, on the basis that if it's having trauma, then it assumes that the deeper tissue is not being protected well enough, that perhaps, you know, you've had a blister and you've torn all of that away and just left that underneath. So it assumes we need more skin. We need more skin quickly. So it accelerates the transit through the layers. Normally this will take sort of 4 to 6 weeks to grow up. But when there's trauma, when there's all these inflammatory cytokines, these cells differentiate quicker. Which sounds like a great idea, but the problem is the differentiation, the bit where they come up through the layers, is where they all drain. Remember we said all of the nucleus and all the stuff that's inside them goes away. So when you are when you're not doing that, what you end up with is all the goop is still inside the cells. All right, they're still wet, they're sticky. This is best co-op marmalade. This is why I was being.
Is that because they've gone faster up the process and not been able
That
to
is
drain?
exactly
Right.
that. They've not had the opportunity to all go away. So we have the same process that we start with the basal layer, and then they become the granulosum layer, and then the spinosum layer, then the granulosum layer, and then the corneal layer. If you want to remember the layers of the skin, by the way, it's chiropodist, generally stop before bleeding, which if you look down from the top, chiropodist C, corneum, generally G, granulosum, stop, spinosum, bleeding, basal.
Yeah.
So if you think about going down and get there before you stop, chiropodist generally stop before bleeding.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
They're going to have to rename it something beginning with P now instead of the corner side there. But anyway, so we have this, and there's all our squashing. So here's our cornified layer, which has been under trauma, and we get our sort of top few layers. But then when we get to that bit,
It's not moving.
it's not moving. It's sticky. So our cornified layer, because it takes so much effort and so much time for one squame to come off, and then that one is sort of slightly stuck to that one, so that takes more. What we end up with is a thicker cornified layer, because it's being produced faster, but because it's sticky, it's not
Being able to flare off.
disquaming as quickly. Now, of course, what that does is, this is now callus. We've now got a thicker cornified layer. We've got a thicker stratum corneum. The dermasomes, these little bridges in between all the skin cells, don't degrade in the same way. The corneum gets thicker, and because it's thicker, it alters everything else. The hydration, the amount of fluid, the amount of liquid in it, gets all screwed up because the lipid balance is all wrong. So harder, thicker skin under trauma tends to be more likely to get dry, which is why callus tends to be dry. It's harder to get the right amount of fluid into it. The elasticity is wrong, because normal cornified layer, a nice thin sort of cornified layer, can flex nice and easily, and your normal skin can move really easily. A cornified layer made up of lots and lots and lots of these won't stretch right. And if it won't stretch right, then the areas around it are under more stress, aren't they? If you think about, if you superglued a disc to your skin and then manipulated it, it would be the circumference of the disc would be where you would have trauma. That would be where it would hurt.
Yeah.
Which is why you get trauma around the border of callus. That is also coincidentally where you get your seed corns, around the borders of stress areas rather than on the direct pressure areas.
Oh.
So you get all of that, and of course that makes it harder again. So this is where we come in, because obviously this is not disquaming very well. It doesn't come off easily, but if you get a scalpel on that, you can take all of that off, or a burr, or you can manually debride the stratum corneum and get it down to a normal level. Or where we've got all this stickiness, if I wanted to get rid of that, I would wash it. And what we can use for that is things that have got urea in them. You know, all the foot creams have got urea in them in a greater or lesser concentration. What the urea does is it allows these to desquamate better. It accelerates the desquamation. It allows basically, you could imagine that as a jet wash going over this, so that they can.
So when you obviously apply the cream,
quicker.
it seeps into the layers.
Yeah, adjust the lipid balance, adjust the desmosomes, means that it can desquamate faster. And that's also why you've got to be very careful with what cream you use, because if you use 30%, which is the really heavy duty one, the heel balm, on thin skin, you know, skin that's in your arch, then it's still going to accelerate the desquamation. But of course, in that area of skin, you've only got a tiny little bit of cornified skin anyway, so you actually accelerate it too much. And then you get those people with very, very picky skin, very loose, flaky skin, where they've overdone the urea. Which is why it's quite important when you're considering what cream to use that you match the urea concentration and all the other elements of the cream to how thick the skin is, how much it needs. You keep your high concentration for your really thick callus, this stuff, and use your lower concentration for more generally. They're all doing more or less the same job. So that's callus, basically.
Thank you very much.
You can stop that.
It's amazing. Oh, I didn't start it. No, I did.
That was unkind. I thought I was going to have to do that again.
Oh, how do I press pause? I don't. Oh, that